Colorado, peaceful, scenic, until it wasn't. When police walked into Randy Baker's home on August 16th, 2017, it looked at first like he'd simply collapsed. His wife Kelly had just returned home after spending the night away. She walked in through the garage, and there he was, face down, motionless, a bag of food beside him. She called 911, panicked, waiting outside as officers arrived.
911, what is your name?
Kelly Baker.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
I just got home and I opened the door and my husband's dead on the floor.
Do you think he is beyond any help?
I don't know. I can't do it. I can't look. Please careful. Please careful.
But what looked like a medical emergency would soon unravel into one of the strangest and coldest family betrayals Colorado had ever seen. Randy Baker was a local through and through. He'd had a rough run early in life, deep into drugs, mixed with dangerous people, the kind who could get you killed for looking at them wrong. But somehow, he'd made it through. Jail time scared him straight. He turned everything around, even went back to school to help others struggling with addiction. At 59, he was proud of what he'd built. A career as a counsellor, a second marriage to his hairdresser Kelly, and a rekindled bond with his daughter from his first marriage, Betty. He also loved his Harley, his hog, as he'd call it. To most people, Randy was living proof that second chances exist. So when Kelly found him dead that August morning, everyone assumed the worst. Just not that kind of worst. Randy had a bad heart, a result of a brutal electrocution back when he was 28. He'd suffered from cardiomyopathy for years, and between that and his history of drug and alcohol use, no one questioned it. When police said he probably passed from natural causes, his health had been declining fast. He'd even fainted while driving multiple times that same month. It all made sense, until it didn't. Something about the scene didn't add up. Randy had a bag of food like he'd just returned from grabbing takeout, but his car wasn't in the driveway. And when investigators checked, they found he had actually driven himself to get that food. So where was the car? The answer came days later, when his missing vehicle turned up abandoned, plates removed and completely wiped down. But the real shock came much earlier, when the coroner examined Randy's body and found not one, but 2 bullets lodged in his head. Randy Baker hadn't collapsed. He'd been executed. With that, the case flipped upside down. The focus turned to who might have wanted Randy dead. His wife Kelly and his sister Carol were both obvious starting points. The 2 women were close, almost weirdly so. Carol had even introduced Kelly to Randy years before they married. But there was a dark history too. Carol and Randy despised each other. She was the last known person to see him alive that evening, visiting around 6 p.m. before he was killed. Still, both women had alibis for the time of the murder. That's when detectives started digging through their texts, and a mysterious name popped up again and again. Sonia. But there was no Sonia. Sonia turned out to be code for Carol's son, Kelly Raisley, better known as Grizz, Randy's nephew, a man with gang ties and a history of violent crime, including attempted murder. Grizz, Carol, and Kelly Baker, the wife, were all brought in. But it was Carol who cracked first after detectives played them against each other in a clever setup. Kelly had tried to frame a random local drug dealer by positively identifying his mugshot.
Do you identify something in there?
Yes.
Okay. There's a number above each one of the images that you can circle the corresponding image over here. How confident are you that the individual you're taking is?
The next day, detectives swapped the mugshots before showing them to Carol, replacing that same mugshot number with one of her own son, Grizz. When Carol saw it, she panicked, assuming Kelly Baker had sold her out. She broke down and confessed.
When you murdered Kelly.
Nobody was there.
Just Kelly.
Had to be just Kelly.
Why did she feel she had to murder Randy Baker? What did she say?
She said he'd never leave her alone. I can't live like this anymore.
That was the plan. That Kelly Raisley was going to shoot and kill him. Is that correct?
Or some other way.
Okay.
I think I need an attorney.
You do? Okay. Well, you're under arrest for first-degree murder and conspiracy for
Carol told them Kelly Baker had wanted Randy dead. He was sick, she said. He'll never leave me alone. Kelly was tired of waiting for him to die. Together, the two women brought in Grizz to finish the job, promising him Randy's Harley and $10,000 as payment. 5 days after the murder, the pieces came together. Grizz had been inside the house with Carol earlier that evening. She left and he stayed behind, waiting. When Randy walked in through the garage, holding that bag of food, Grizz shot him twice in the head. He took Randy's wallet, keys and car, then passed the car to his mother, Carol. In court, Grizz later claimed he'd been manipulated by both women, told lies about Randy being abusive, but his own confession, written out by hand to purge his conscience, made it clear he knew what he was doing. The man he once admired had become his victim, and it didn't stop there. Investigators discovered that the trio had actually been trying to kill Randy for months. They'd been secretly spiking his morning smoothies with his own medication, hoping he'd overdose or crash his car so that the death would look natural. When that didn't work fast enough, they planned something more permanent. It all came down to greed.
We approached ultimately and talked about what you get paid for doing this.
So you'll give you $10,000.
Okay.
And the motorcycle.
Kelly Baker had told police the life insurance payout was about $10,000. In reality, Randy had multiple policies worth hundreds of thousands. That, plus his house and his Harley, was motive enough for all three.
Not released because if Randy didn't go to prison, then he must have knocked on. Or maybe that's not the right.
Like life insurance policies or anything like that?
Yes.
Grizz and Carol both took plea deals. Grizz for life without parole, Carol for 30 years. But Kelly Baker held out, claiming innocence to the end. Unfortunately for her, the evidence told a different story, especially a check for $420 that she cashed the day after the murder, a check that had come directly from Randy's stolen wallet. When the prosecutor asked, "So you deposited a check from a dead man's missing wallet?" she could only say, "Correct." That was all the jury needed. Kelly Baker was sentenced to life in prison without parole. A man who rebuilt his life and dedicated it to helping others was betrayed by the three people who should have loved him most. Randy Baker escaped the danger of his old world, only to be destroyed by his own family. Sometimes the most dangerous people aren't strangers in the dark. They're the ones who already have the keys to your home.